Greetings, everyone. This is our time, the top stories at this hour. Leila Mammadova is here for it. Russian troops launched a combined strike on Ukraine. The occupying army used 68 missiles, 13 of which were ballistic. Also, more than 400 drones were launched, 250 of them were Shaheds. Air Defense Forces managed to neutralize 460 targets, including all cruise missiles. The main target of the strike was the Kyiv region. As a result of the attack, 4 people died, and another 15 residents of the region were injured by Russian shelling. 3 of them are in serious condition. In the Brovary district, 2 private houses, non-residential, office and industrial buildings, restaurant premises, a garage cooperative, and cars were damaged. A dormitory was also destroyed. Our correspondent Andrei Dmitrenko visited the site.
Workers from a local pave and stone factory live in this dormitory. An explosion occurred here towards Moyen. Almost the entire area was destroyed, but the main blow fell on residential buildings. Locals are helping rescuers clear the debris of buildings that are scattered everywhere.
We were in another room. Where we were supposed to be, there's no glass, nothing. We got out unscathed, but people were hurt. We're helping, clearing debris at our place for now, and then we'll do as we're told.
Many were left without housing, jobs, and cars. Information about the victims continues to come in. Public transport was also affected.
At 3 in the morning, there was a powerful explosion. Everything was blown apart. There are casualties. It's terrifying to talk about it. There was a blast wave. Look at how badly the bus was wrecked. The wheels, the windows.
Medics, rescuers, and utility services are working at all the sites. Aid headquarters are being sent up. People are receiving necessary medical and psychological assistance. Andrei Dmitrenko, Alexander Khan, reporting for Freedom TV channel.
In the Kharkiv region, the Russian Federation Army hit a suburban train with a drone. The driver and the assistant driver sustained shrapnel wounds. The passengers were not injured. The locomotive was damaged. This was reported by the Deputy Prime Minister for Restoration of Ukraine, Minister for Communities and Territories Development, Alexei Kuleba. 4 people, including 2 children, were injured as a result of the shelling of the Zaporizhzhia region. This is reported by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Neighboring houses were also damaged by the blast wave. Such Russian strikes emphasize that Ukraine needs missiles for air defense systems, so no agreement on ammunition supplies can be delayed or slowed down. This was stated by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy after the massive overnight attack by the Russian Federation.
Russia will try to take advantage of the war in the Middle East to cause even more damage here, in Europe, in Ukraine. That is why we must be conscious of the real level of threat and prepare accordingly. Specifically, we in Europe need to develop the production of missiles for air defense, and especially against ballistic missiles and all other necessary systems that will allow us to truly protect lives, no matter what happens in any other part of the world. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Every attack on Ukraine is a direct consequence of Russia's sense of impunity. This was stated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Andriy Sybiha. He emphasized that we must increase pressure on Russia to counter the spread of terror in Europe, the Middle East, and other regions.
In response to such actions, Moscow should not receive any easing of international pressure or isolation. The policy of appeasement has never brought peace. It only leads to the spread of terror and war. The faster we deprive the Russian war machine of its fuel, the faster the war will end, and the faster Moscow will lose the ability to support other terrorist regimes, in particular the regime in Tehran. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
Meanwhile, one of the most powerful bombings in the history of the Middle East was carried out by U.S. forces. All military targets on the island of Karg were destroyed. This was reported on the social network Truth Social by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump emphasized that Iran is unable to protect the facilities that Washington attacks and called on the Iranian government to surrender, noting that Iran will never possess nuclear weapons.
Iran will never have nuclear weapons, and it will not be able to threaten the United States of America, the Middle East, or, for that matter, the whole world. It would be wise for the Iranian army and everyone else involved in this terrorist regime to lay down their arms and save what's left of their country, which is not much at all. Donald Trump, President of the USA, on the social network Truth Social.
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz calls for finding ways to end the military operation in Iran through diplomatic means. He emphasized that this operation has had an impact on Euro-Atlantic security and energy supplies.
We share the important goals of the U.S. and Israel. Iran must not pose a threat to Israel and other neighbors. But with every day this war, more and more questions arise. And one thing is becoming clearer. We need a convincing plan on how to put an end to this war. If Iran's territorial integrity or statehood collapses, or if Iran ceases to be economically viable, it will have a serious impact on us as well. Therefore, we need favorable prospects for a peaceful order. Friedrich Merz, Chancellor of Germany.
Today is March 14th, and on this day every year, Ukraine celebrates Volunteer Day. The country honors those who, without hesitation, took up arms and stood up to defend their state. The first volunteer battalion in Ukraine was formed in the spring of 2014. And in February 2022, from the first hours of the Russian army's invasion, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians joined the defenders and filled the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine in territorial defense. Stories of volunteers from various units. Next, in a report from our colleagues.
Vladimir, 28, is from Nizhyn. He's defended Ukraine since 18, serving in the ATO and JFO. In 2021, he was discharged from the armed forces. But at 5 a.m. on February 24, 2022, he was already at the Territorial Recruitment Center. He says he saw a huge number of people then who, following their hearts, wanted to stand up for Ukraine.
There were so many. You know, it was so unexpected. There were so many people that while waiting in line for uniforms, those who got clothes and then weapons would come back and say, "Guys, go get your weapons because there won't be enough for everyone." This was on the night of February 24th to the 25th. Of course, there were many of us volunteers there.
After receiving his assignment, Vladimir became a tank driver mechanic. His crew defended Charkiv. Later, along with his comrades, he took part in battles in the Donetsk region. Afterward, the tank was stationed at positions in Kyiv. They provided cover for the infantry and took part in the counteroffensive in the Zaporizhia region. After being wounded and undergoing rehabilitation, Vladimir returned to duty. Now he is the chief sergeant of the 1st Tank Battalion of the 12th Brigade, which is based in Kupiansk. He has 9 years of combat experience and many awards. Among the latest are the Order of Merit, 3rd Class, and the Golden Cross.
We have no intention of quitting. In my position, I still need to train new people and teach them about the tank.
Dmitry from Kharkiv worked as a lawyer before the full-scale Russian invasion and had no military background. A few months before February 2022, he underwent training with the National Corps units. There, Dmitry recalls one of the most powerful volunteer movements was formed.
To me, a volunteer is, first and foremost, a person with an active stance who doesn't need to be talked into or convinced of anything. Well, that's just how I am. I understand that this is my home. For me, for instance, there is every opportunity right now to go abroad. But I understand that this is my hometown, this is my home country. This is where I had my first kiss with a girl. My friend lives here. Everything there is close to me. It's home. I actually believe, I think, that, to be honest, many of my guys have very much the same kind of feelings.
After defending the northern Saltivka district, Kharkiv, and the Kharkiv region, Dmitry joined the Azov Special Operations Forces. During a combat mission in Bakhmut, he was seriously wounded and subsequently finished his service in the armed forces of Ukraine. Now, as the head of a public organization, he supports and helps active-duty military personnel and veterans. On the eve of Volunteer Day, Dmitry and several other defenders met in an informal setting for a burger-making masterclass.
What we have here is a delicious burger, a unique style of closed burger, which is originally based on a traditional and authentic Turkish national dish, but it has been carefully adapted to suit the tastes of both European and Ukrainian cuisine. So this is what a closed burger looks like.
To gather defenders in one kitchen and help them step away from the daily routine of the front lines for a bit, that was the idea of the event organizers. In the establishment where the volunteers met, they prepare food and treat the military. It's not the first time. Everyone here, from the cook to the waiter, is grateful for the defense of not only Kharkiv, but all of Ukraine.
These are people we know, acquaintances of acquaintances, our friends, whom we've been helping since 2022. They defended the borders of Kharkiv in northern Saltivka. You see, they have their usual daily lives. Everyone works, has their own problems and worries, but you always want to get together and talk.
According to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, in the first days of the full-scale Russian invasion alone, nearly 100,000 volunteers joined the armed forces and territorial defense forces. Natalia Belakudria, Andrei Domovoy from Kharkiv for the Freedom TV channel.